Hey everyone, this is your host Brian, and welcome to episode 2. Today's topic, Joey's horrible addiction to heroin, and why this isn't a podcast but an intervention. We all love you. Please stop. Find out about all that and more on this week's episode of the Pause Button Podcast. So welcome to episode 2. This is it. We made it. Everyone knows once you get to episode 2, you are established and set. I just emailed my boss. Friday's my last day.
I'm betting we have at least 12 listeners now.
12?
At least.
12? You guys all quit, right? 12 is enough.
Mainstream.
If the 12 of you could each email us, what, like $100?
We're setting up our Patreon
immediately.
Oh, yeah. If you are part of the $100 tier, we'll post pictures of Brian in a thong.
Yeah. Maybe just a full-on shot of him holding his butthole open.
Hey, maybe if you're real lucky, we'll include bonus pictures of just the top view of his head.
Oh.
So you can see what his hairline's looking like these days.
How about we include close-up shots of like random body parts and people have to guess what it is? Like, you know, like just like different like creases of skin, you know, like there's that one where people are like, is that a butt cheek or an elbow?
Whose body parts they are? I mean, it might be like a little cheating for Devontae. But...
Yeah, I think I stand out the most. So
we're gonna pull back the magic of podcast making here. So we recorded the first episode and this episode back to back, and in between we talked about how it went and everything. And Pat said something about how they were just too nice to me in episode 1. Like the 0.5 episode, you know, I made the joke about the Shit on Brian podcast, and then episode 1 ends and Pat's like, I don't know, we were too nice. And I was like, oh, that's a funny joke. And we're, not even 2 minutes into this one, and,
well, to be fair,
we
were including the rest of us in the other body parts thing. Yeah. I mean, we talked about Devontae being in it. Don't always be the victim, Brian. This is why we don't like you.
I made this podcast a whine.
But is Pat really being mean when you're the $100 tier of our Patreon?
Yeah. I'm the $100 tier?
Yeah, he said you're the $100 tier.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I'm all in. When do we shoot?
Right now.
You got the camera. Yeah.
We do it live. All right.
So what's this episode about, Brian?
Clearly taking photo. No, so this episode is going to be about the Marvel Cinematic Universe and its Phase 4 announcement at San Diego Comic-Con in 2019 back in, was that June? That was June, right? July. That was July. It was late July. So they announced 5 movies and I think 4 or 5 shows. I don't have them in like a short list. They're a long list here in front of me. So we're going to be running through each of them and giving you some details about it and our takes and everything, and with our usual witty banter. So you got something to say?
I was making a bit of a face when you said witty, but it's fine.
Okay. So I think we're witty. I don't know.
Why are you looking at me like that?
So, Movie 1. It is The Black Widow, starring Scarlett Johansson, set to be released on May 1st of next year. The director is Kate Shortland, known for such films as Somersault, Lore, and Berlin Syndrome. Has anybody heard of any of those?
None of them.
Me neither.
Not
all right.
all.
The writers are Jack Schaefer, who did The Hustle, and Ned Benson, who's done a couple of indie films. So the two of them together are going to be great. This is their first time working together, I believe. The cast, Scarlett Johansson, you know. Are we okay with spoilers for Endgame and everything?
Yeah, I think everyone's seen it at this point.
It's been out for a while. It's
on DVD.
Movie of all time. Everyone's seen it.
There's also David Hopper from Stranger Things, as Alexei Shostakov, or the Red Guardian. Now, if you don't know who the Red Guardian is, he's a powered cop from a small town in Indiana who went into an alternate... No, okay, so he's actually a commie cap with no powers.
All right. And if I remember correctly, they're also casting. I'm gonna butcher her last name, but Florence Pugh. I'm gonna say
Not Pooh, right?
Pooh.
Pooh.
Take him that little French.
It's French.
As Yelena Belova, or like the new Black Widow, someone from the Black Widow program, who in the comics is generally seen as a villain. She's like Black Widow if she never defected to the U.S.
Interesting. Now, I was going to say something now that you brought that up. There is another lady who's going to be playing a Black Widow. It's Rachel Weisz, I believe is how you pronounce her name. She was the female lead in The Mummies with Brendan Fraser back in like the late 90s or early 2000s. And she's also Daniel Craig's wife. I found that out. Her name is going to be Melina, and she's going to be a Black Widow as well. So I was thinking the villain of this film is supposed to be Taskmaster. What if Taskmaster isn't like there's the normal like thing that we thought, but if it was just another Black Widow and they had like a whole like...
It wouldn't surprise me. It sounds like they're setting up Yelena to be almost like a little sister character to our normal Black Widow, to Natasha. So I think they might be setting us up for a bit of a twist where at some point in the movie it's revealed she's been playing Natasha. I also, if I remember correctly, with Black Widow being dead now, this movie takes place between Civil War and Infinity War.
Yes, so in the timeline of the movies, I believe that's around the years that came out, in between 2016 and 2018. So somewhere in those years. The other thing I forgot to mention in terms of casting, this one I'm going to mess up. His name is O-T Fagbenel? Fagbenel?
What?
He's got an interesting name. He was in Doctor Who and The Handmaid's Tale, and he's going to be playing a guy named Mason, who's a S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, and I believe they're saying that he might be like romantically interested in Natasha.
Nice.
Oh,
That could be fun.
Yeah.
everybody got to get it a little, you know?
Yeah.
The only other news we have about it is, in quotes, it's about her getting rid of some of the red in her ledger, which is that line from Avengers.
I really hope they hit a tone similar to Winter Soldier with like the hardcore spy film. I think making things a little more realistic works well for her character.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
A little more grounded.
That's a good point. None of those people have powers. They are all normal human beings. Not normal because they're like trained super spies, but none of them can lift buildings.
So does anyone here know much about Taskmaster, who is marked as the main villain for the film?
I do not.
I know a little. He's like a mercenary, right?
He's a mercenary in the Marvel Universe who's known for being able to adapt and copy people's fighting styles exactly. So Black Widows, Captain America's, I could see him easily pulling out the sort of moves that we've gotten used to seeing from them during his fights.
Oh, some of those like cool like leg flip things that she does.
Right.
Yeah, that'll be cool.
Yeah, he was just in the Spider-Man game. He was a little
That's the only place I know him from. So
yeah, I mean he's basically just like what's his face, Deathstroke from DC, right? Am I wrong in that?
Kind of, yeah. I
look
would
the
say
same.
that he's a much more lighthearted character. Generally, depending on the storyline with him, I've seen him used a little more comedically in recent years in comics, whereas Deathstroke is still more serious.
Okay.
So Taskmaster, when everyone registered for because of the Marvel Comics Civil War event, he was like in charge of Avengers Academy and teaching young superheroes how to fight. But then if I remember correctly, when Norman Osborn became head of S.H.I.E.L.D., he was just as willing to train villains. He trains villains pretty often. He these days partners up with, I want to say Black Ant is his name, the third Ant-Man, Eric O'Grady.
Okay. I mean, if you can't tell by this point, Pat is definitely the resident comic expert in this panel. Like, I think we've all read comics a little bit, but Pat's got a pretty good knowledge of what's going on in that realm.
Oh, yeah. Definitely more than me.
Now, as we go through each of these shows and movies, there's I forget exactly what Kevin Feige said in an interview, but he said that he really enjoys bringing back characters from the universe that you wouldn't expect. So as you go through each one, I want to see if you guys have any like random hot takes of like, I think this character is going to show up in this movie out of nowhere. Like kind of like the guy. Joey, did you see Far From Home yet?
No, I actually haven't.
Okay, well then I won't say, because that movie's kind of a little more recent, but I won't say exactly who shows up. But there was like oh my god, that guy, huh?
Okay, well.
So anybody think anybody random's gonna show up in Black Widow? Set years in the past, could be somebody who's dead already.
What about maybe Captain America? Or no?
That could be. I mean, technically, it's during a time period when she's working closely with Steve, so he could easily show up if Chris Evans feels.
He would be the Nomad during that time, though.
Yeah,
because this is post Civil War. He dropped the shield with Tony.
Right.
Or maybe just like a small little thing in there, like you know how he was almost in like Spider-Man: Homecoming with the little
Right,
videos, like maybe just something short, you know?
Yeah. Just a one little fight scene off, and then it's, like the start is like them working together. It's like, all right, I'll see you, and then she goes off and does the movie kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. That'd be cool. Ready to move on to the next one?
Yeah.
All right, so the next one's a show. It's The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. No official date. It's just going to come out in the fall of 2020. And it's a buddy comedy with Bucky and Sam, who are, the Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
The first of the Disney streaming service
Yes,
shows.
this is going to be on Disney Plus. The only way to watch the show is on their streaming platform, Disney Plus, which I think this is going to be on there as soon as it starts. Because in the list, this comes before the next movie, Eternals, and that comes out on November 6th. And I think Disney Plus comes out in November, right?
October or November.
Okay, we're in there. So yeah, this is going to be probably there from day one. Along with Bucky and Sam, there's also going to be Sharon Carter, Emily, who was played by Emily Van Camp in Civil War, kind of Peggy Carter's niece that Cap had like a romantic interest with for a little bit before he went back in time and ended up with her aunt anyway.
It should be noted, though, that The Eternals comes out in November 2020, whereas Disney Plus comes out in November 2019. So there's a whole year.
That's this year. Yeah, I'm completely wrong. There's no way this show is going to be there. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, thank you for that.
No problem.
And then surprisingly, Baron Helmut Zemo, played by Daniel Brühl, the main villain of Civil War, is going to show up in this with his like sock-looking helmet thing on,
purple mask.
His mask, purple mask. It's he's gonna be full-on comic book villain here. So this, I mean, if you're talking like picking up the pieces after like a movie, kind of like the style like Winter Soldier, I think this is gonna be very similar to, because Civil War is so closely tied with Cap side being Bucky and Sam being like his numbers 1 and 2. So I think this is gonna be the most Captain America thing other than Cap.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I think the way I'm going to look at this is going to be kind of like how Daredevil was for Netflix. Ooh. So I think it's probably going to start off, pretty strong because, I mean, they're going to want you to – everybody loves Captain America. I mean, granted, it's going to be Falcon as Captain America now, but everybody still loves Captain America in general. So I feel like this is going to be – their big thing, like, hey, our TV shows are like our streaming TV shows are just going to be as good as the movie. So this is the one that's going to be this has to set the standard, I think.
If Disney's track record, at least in the past couple of years, is anything similar to this, like they were planning all those not solo Star Wars films, but like spin-off Star Wars films. Solo happened, and then they panicked and like, I don't know, we might not do all these. So this first show that they're gonna do that is just as serious and tied into the MCU as the movies. The first one's the groundbreaker. It's got to be something that everybody keeps up on, and if it ties into the movies, everyone's got to watch it.
I think we'll see a little bit of what we did in the comics when Falcon transitioned in Captain America, which is directly addressing controversy in real life with the idea of A, someone who's not Steve Rogers, and B, a black man taking on the role of Captain America. Maybe him dealing with some adversary from the government and society of showing up as Cap. We might not even see him in full costume as Captain America until the end of the series, because they're specifically calling it Winter Soldier and Falcon instead of Winter Soldier and Captain America. Mm-hmm. And I think that's because whether it be because he isn't confident with taking on the role, or whether it be the government doesn't want him to. Maybe they own the copyright to Captain America. And maybe society itself, you see a lot of people going, oh, wow, you're not Steve Rogers, or, oh, you're not white.
That would
maybe we'll see a little bit of that.
Yeah.
Marvel, like the themes of the movies kind of hint on some real world stuff, but they've never full out like made a like statement like that. And it'd be wonderful to see them address that and kind of start to go into that area a little bit.
And I think it would be cool because versus a movie, like to a show, I think that they would have a lot more time to like flesh that out and have it move at a slower progression that's maybe more realistic than you would see in a movie or something like that.
And if I remember correctly, this is jumping ahead a little bit. I believe it came out recently that the Loki show is about 6 episodes, so 6 hours long. I would imagine we'll be seeing something similar with that. And 6 hours is plenty of time to give you full character arcs for characters we've seen do that in 2 hours or an hour and a half.
Yeah, no, my guess is this one's going to be like I don't feel ready for it. I'm not powered like he was. I'm not the man he was. And by the end of it, he's like, no, I'm ready to go. And he puts that suit on, and then I don't know if he shows up in a movie or if he gets his own movie, Phase 5 kind of stuff, but...
Well, and so my only question is, too, because I was wondering this at the end of Endgame when they kind of had him take on the shield and everything. Is he going to have some sort of super serum, or is it just going to be him as himself, basically?
I think it'll be sort of like in the comics. He'll still focus on flying around, but he'll just use the shield and what it represents and the costume change and what it represents is the title of Captain America. Gotcha. I don't think he'll take on a super soldier serum.
Yeah.
Unless they want to make it more like the comics and we find out he can talk to birds. But
he brings back the 70s Falcon costume. All right, on to the next one. It's going to be a movie coming out November 6th in 2020, The Eternals. So this one's going to be pretty different. The director is Chloe Zhao, who did Songs My Brothers Taught Me and The Rider. Anybody know either of those films?
No idea.
No.
Now we gotta watch some more films apparently. The writers are Ryan Firpo. I couldn't really find anything.
Writers.
And Matthew K. Firpo. So it's like a brother kind of thing, kind of like the Russos do. And all I could find out about Matthew Firpo is that he was in Forbes' list of 30 under 30 in 2016. So pretty young, but an up and comer, I guess, with his brother writing this one. The cast is pretty large, and I kind of left off. The Eternals all have basically the stereotypical powers of they're fast, they can fly, they're super strong, stuff like that. And then they have their own little tweaks in there as well. So the biggest name they got is Angelina Jolie, who, what she's done. She's going to be playing Thena, who apparently is the daughter of Zeus. Did I get that right?
Maybe. I don't know much about Eternals.
That's what I was reading about. Okay.
I can tell you Athena is the goddess of wisdom and war, and is the daughter of Zeus, but I don't know if Thena and Athena are the same person.
Yeah, I mean, they might have, because some of these names are a little bit different. Like the next guy, Richard Madden is the actor. He's Robb Stark from Game of Thrones. He's going to be playing Icarus, which is spelled a little bit different than how the Greek spelling of it. It's like a K instead of a C. So like he's got all your normal powers, but he also can turn into pure energy. So he's immortal and immune to normal forms of injury. If you just stab him, like he'll just become energy and it won't hurt him.
Very cool. Right. Gonna be hard to. I wonder what his weakness is gonna be. That's what because I don't know anything about the Eternals.
If people can turn into energy, a lot of the times in comics and movies, you just have someone or something that can absorb energy, or you put them into some static field, or you just knock them out when they're not expecting it.
Right.
The next guy is I'm going to pronounce his name wrong, but Kumail Nanjiani. Kumail. Okay. He's been in like Central Intelligence. Stuber just came out and he was in that. He's going to be playing Kingo. He's got all those normal powers. But he likes to fight traditionally with a sword. It's like hand-to-hand combat. He's like a very like prideful kind of guy.
So he's going to be that guy who is like the main character in Stuber besides was Dave Bautista? Yeah. Okay, cool. I actually really like that guy. He's hilarious, I think.
No, he's a great comedian.
Yeah.
And a comedic actor.
I feel like they're not going to go for Guardians humor, but I think them going for how outlandish this team is going to be, they're going to rely on the humor to bring it all down to earth,
Yeah. Yeah.
The next one is Lauren Ridloff from Wonderstruck, and she plays Connie in The Walking Dead.
Gotcha.
She's going to be playing Makari, who is going to be deaf in the movie. The first deaf character. She's got no hearing. And also, interesting, in the comics, it's a male. And they create cyclones.
Yeah, there's 2 members of the Eternals who have been gender swapped, if I remember correctly.
I think it's 3.
Really?
Yeah, they did a lot of male to female. Kind of get it a little diversified. The next one's Brian Tyree Henry. He voiced Miles' dad in Into the Spider-Verse. And he's also going to be in the Joker film. So this guy's working his way through some comic book movies. He's going to be playing Fastos? It's like a PH kind of thing. He shoots eye and hand beams, and he can teleport and wields a hammer.
Oh,
cool.
Phase 4 is going full comics, man. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If they use even all their powers from the comics, they might change things.
They might change it completely.
I kind of hope they use the teleport thing. Like, I remember being little and growing up and watching X-Men and stuff, and I always liked the scenes with Nightcrawler.
Dude, that opening of X2?
Yeah.
Love that, yeah. Next one's Salma Hayek from... There were a lot to pick from. A lot of people know Salma Hayek, but the 2 things I picked were Wild Wild West and Ugly Betty.
Oh.
I'm sure that's how she wants her career to be described.
Wild Wild West. We're going straight to Wild Wild West. She's gonna be playing Ajax,
Also a man in comic.
also a man in comics, the leader of the Eternals, and Ajax can communicate with Celestials directly, which I guess that might be hard to do. So Celestials are the ones that kind of like use the Infinity Stones. If you remember that scene in Guardians where there's this enormous, weird-looking dude holding the Power Stone and he's just destroyed a bunch of people. That's what the Celestials are. They're the head of nowhere, where we're in that scene. That's the head of a Celestial. So, do you think we might see some Celestials in this movie?
Oh, almost certainly. There's
Yeah,
already
I
been
assume
concept
so.
art released of
Oh,
what
really?
Celestials look like.
Well, okay
Oh,
then. I
That'd
didn't
be
know
really
that.
cool.
Yeah, because Celestials make the Eternals, right? They're kind of like
Celestials, so thousands of years ago, they came to Earth, and frankly, they did this around all of space, and they created life forms, including the Eternals and the Eternals and the Deviants. So the Eternals are what we're gonna see of the sort of humanoid, almost gods with their amazing powers, and the Deviants are the opposite, and they're more mutated and evil. I think Thanos might be a deviant.
Yes, yeah.
Oh.
Thanos is one of these people. I'm a little concerned by that because one of the biggest critiques people have of Marvel films is like, oh, it's your first movie, time to fight the evil villain of yourself, and that's literally what the deviants are. I hope their powers are dynamic enough and different to be, it's not just like an Ant-Man 1 kind of thing where it's like, oh, you can do that, they can do this too. Like, it does get a little bit old.
Yeah.
Going on to the next one. This is Leah McHugh. She's 12 years old, and she started acting in 2016. She's going to be playing Sprite. Another one that was male in the comics, but they switched to female. So the interesting twist there. But while Sprite looks young, at least in the comics, they are hundreds of thousands of years old, but stuck looking young. So they could go for some funny humor of like some kids saying some pretty
Maybe
adult
she's
stuff.
like chain smoking or
Right,
something like
yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And then
Kind of like Twilight
Uh,
with Edward.
let's not.
This is what this podcast is about, right? I read all the books for that.
The final casting is Don Lee. He's done a lot of South Korean films, so I did not list any of them because I don't know if any of our listeners watch South Korean films, but I know I don't. He's going to be playing Gilgamesh. He's also called the Forgotten One, and he's the strongest Eternal other than Thanos.
Oh.
So this guy's going to be just your hulking, barbarian, huge muscle, ready to fight kind of guy.
Nice.
So do you think like he'll be a guy who's around for a while after this movie? Do you think he'll bleed into the other movies and stuff?
I mean, there is a power opening now that Thor is weak and like, fat and depressed kind of thing. So like, they need somebody. Well, then again, I feel like Captain Marvel's kind of filling that role. So I wouldn't be surprised if they kill the strongest one. Because some of these got to die, right? Like you got this. It's like a Rogue One kind of thing. Like you got a whole cast of new characters. Someone's got to go.
Yeah, I feel like only like one or two might stay alive at the end.
Yeah.
Because I don't think they want to have all these characters jump into the other storylines, and then it's kind of how are they going to be stopped? I mean, the guy just always going to win.
It could end up being more clutter for the Marvel universe.
Right.
Yeah, what makes
That's a risk.
what makes the MCU films great isn't these spin-off films, while they're enjoyable. It's them mixing all these colors together and making like this crazy tapestry of like, why are they going to work together? Why not? See what happens. Anything else you guys want to mention about the Eternals?
Looking forward to being surprised.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like a Guardians kind of thing. Like, sure, why not? All right, going into 2021 now, we have Shang-Chi, The Legend of the Ten Rings, coming out in February 12th of 2021, which I when I was predicting which films are going to come out, I thought that this would come out then because that's, I believe, during Chinese New Year and everything. So, how they, like when Black Panther came out during Black History Month, Captain Marvel came out during Women's History Month. So I think that's the thing that they think about when they do things like this. The director is going to be Destin Daniel Cretton, it's Cretton. Might be saying that wrong. I love the title of this film. He did I Am Not a Hipster and The Glass Castle. I've not heard of them, but
Oh, I actually saw the Glass Castle. I liked it. It had I know we weren't supposed to do this. I can't remember the name of the actor. Oh, Brie Larson.
oh yeah,
She was in it, yeah.
interesting. Okay, maybe she like talked him up or something.
If you look at the Twitter of some of these people. They were like hyping themselves up, which is good.
I mean, the writers are going to be just one guy, David Callahan, who has an expansive list. He did the Expendables, I think all 3 of them. He worked on Ant-Man. He's doing Zombieland 2. He's working on Wonder Woman 1984 and Spider-Verse 2.
Nice.
This guy is busy, but it's got to be for good reason, right?
Yeah.
So the cast, we have Simu Liu.
Didn't want to see what Kevin Feige said when he announced him.
No, I didn't. I didn't actually watch the video. What did he say?
I don't remember. You're the one saying his name. You're the one saying his name.
I wasn't there. It's illegal to film it. I didn't think they had any stuff online. I didn't look.
Yeah, I think it would be like Liu.
Liu? Yeah, that makes sense. So Simu Liu. He's done. He was on Heroes Reborn, the reboot of Heroes that lasts like a season or 2. Yeah, not the biggest thing. He worked on Orphan Black. I believe that's a BBC show. I remember seeing commercials for it when I was watching Doctor Who. And this is his first big film and everything. So he's gonna be playing Shang-Chi.
He was the one I was thinking of who hyped himself up on Twitter. He used to tweet at Kevin Feige and Marvel all the time saying, "Hey, Shang-Chi, hey, you need an Asian actor to play a forefront role in the Marvel universe to get some
diversity going.
Diversity, yeah, absolutely.
Good for him. He's going to be playing a Chinese martial arts expert that in the comics he's been able to beat superpowered people, but he has none himself.
He in the comics taught Spider-Man martial arts and a number of others and has fought evenly with Iron Fist.
Wow.
Oh wow.
So he does have some stuff going on with Chi, which they might tap into, but as far as the comics go, he's got no powers on his own. Also in the film is going to be Tony Leung Chu Wai, who's done a lot of Chinese films, and he's going to be playing the real Mandarin. I'm trying my best here with these names.
No, I no, it's funny. That's all.
So he's playing the real Mandarin. So as you know, the Mandarin is the arch enemy of Iron Man, and I wrote down all 10 rings. So really quickly, the rings that he has in the comics at least are Ice, Dark Force, which is kind of like black magic stuff, Mind Control, Disintegration, Lightning, Vortex or spinning wind stuff, Flames, Impact or just getting hit really hard, Gravity, and Rearranging Molecules. So it's really interesting they took a non-powered guy to be like, all right, you're going up against this.
Yeah, and he's also well known as the arch nemesis of Iron Man in the comics, and it should be noted it's rumored heavily that he will be in this version Shang-Chi's father.
Really?
Yeah, in the comics, there's a ton of convoluted stuff where Shang-Chi's father was a character known as Fu Manchu, who, was only temporarily owned by Marvel Comics when they used him as the father of Shang-Chi, and who, B, has a lot of controversy over the fact that he is seen as being a very racist caricature of an Asian based on the name Fu Manchu.
Yeah.
And I believe in recent years they changed him and had revealed that was an alias and his father's real name is Zhang Zhu or something like that. So
try to patch that up.
Yeah.
They'll probably streamline it, make it a little less comic-y and a little more simple in the movie.
Right.
Hope so.
The last thing is people are talking about the actress and rapper Awkwafina is going to be in this movie.
Awkwafina.
Yeah. Awkwafina?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, it is spelled that way, isn't it?
Yeah.
Awkwafina is from BoJack Horseman.
Oh, that's why. Okay, I was going to say. So the big question I got here is, will we get Ben Kingsley playing Trevor from Iron Man 3 in this movie?
I hope so. That'd be a good opportunity for a cameo, especially after the one shot they did with him getting broken out of prison and captured by the Mandarin's people.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that would be really funny. He did such a good job.
They continued the 10 Rings gang well past Iron Man 3. In Ant-Man, one of the people who wants to buy the suit has a 10 Rings tattoo on his neck. So,
oh.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
Yeah. So
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's cool.
They kept it going. And then, do you think they're going to tie into Tony Stark at all? Being, is this just...
I think we might get some mentions of Tony Stark fighting a fake Mandarin all those years ago and someone stealing the Mandarin's name and the Mandarin coming out into the public again to sort of take his own name back.
Yeah.
But other than that, I don't really expect too much allusion to Tony.
Okay. Makes sense. Ready to move on to the next show?
Yeah.
All right. WandaVision's coming out in the spring of 2021.
Starring Wanda Sykes.
Wanda Sykes, you know it. It's about the relationship between Wanda, or Scarlet Witch, played by Elizabeth Olsen, and the Vision, played by Paul Bettany. So obviously he's not dead somehow. The showrunner is Jack Schaefer, who I mentioned earlier is going to be writing on Black Widow. Also in it is going to be Tiona Paris from If Beale Street Could Talk, Chirac, and Mad Men, playing Monica Rambeau. So if you remember, if you saw Captain Marvel, that was Maria Rambeau's daughter, the little kid that was like helping her change the colors of her suit. And in the comics, she's known as Photon or Pulsar or Spectrum, she gets like exposed to ultra-dimensional energy and can now convert her body to energy, kind of like that one Eternal guy.
Right.
So, I mean, I think we'll see her get her powers in this somehow. And I don't know. What do you guys think?
So there's a few things I'd like to know. One is that Elizabeth Olsen has promised that this is supposed to be a weird show, getting into like a lot of the strangeness that tends to surround Scarlet Witch in the comics. A lot of people are rumoring that this is going to be based heavily on writer Tom King's Vision comic, which featured Vision building other robots like himself and then moving into a house in a neighborhood. And it's known to be really weird and strange. People suspect this might be instead of Vision doing this, Wanda doing this, and maybe using her magics to create a vision and a new vision, maybe even a family, and trying to start it. Yeah. Maybe sending her a little bit more on her way towards insanity, which Scarlet Witch tends to tangle with a lot in the comics. There's also rumors I've seen that the Vision that we see in it is a new Vision and not the one that we saw before, and it's just like a creation that isn't actually the real Vision.
I was thinking, maybe to tie it into, like, not tie it in, but to kind of go off of, like, things with other dimensions. Like this book I read really recently, I think it was called Dark Matter or Bioshock Infinite. Like, what if she uses the multiverse to just be like, all right, well, I'm going to find, some universe where I died and the Vision's still alive, and then I'll just pull him into this reality.
Yeah, I can see that too.
Yes. So I was going to say, so what I think is going to happen is in Infinity War, I don't remember the name of Black Panther's sister who's working to fix Vision. If you notice really...
Sure.
Yeah, so if you notice pretty closely when they start to invade the tower she's working on Vision, she actually finishes fixing Vision, but I don't know if she had to turn them on or whatever, but there's like little cords to like connect it to where the stone was to take it out. So I don't know if the snap is going to bring back to him being on the table, but she actually finishes working on Vision, but I think he's going to come back and not have any memories, which is going to cause Scarlet Witch to kind of go a little crazy.
I can see that too. Maybe they don't have the body, but they do have the memories, and they try to shove the memories into a new body, and it's no longer working as well.
Right.
Yeah. That makes sense. So the other two questions I had about this one was, there's a storyline in the comics where Scarlet Witch just says no more mutants, and it's called House of M. I'm saying that right? Yeah. So it's like she just changed reality completely throughout, like, everywhere. And do you think this is going to be inspired by that at all? And do you think that we'll get any hint of the mutants?
I think we'll be getting hints towards maybe her having some interesting lineage here. And I think we will get more hints towards her psych issues. But I don't think we'll be getting any direct links towards mutants yet. I think if that were to pop up in this phase at all, it would be in our next movie, the Doctor Strange movie. But I don't expect it in this show. I expect the show to want to focus on Vision and Wanda's relationship, Wanda's psyche, and seeing a little bit more of the weirdness of Wanda's powers. But I think if they want to lean more into mutants, they will want to do that in a movie, because the streaming shows are still a little bit more experimental with them, and they do not know how successful they will be. Yeah. They don't want to start alienating part of their audience if they realize their audience isn't going into their streaming services as well.
Right.
So, we bring that up. The next movie is Doctor Strange, and it's confirmed that this is going to lead into it. So, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which is one of the coolest titles they've had for a movie yet, I think. It's coming out on May 7th of 2021. The director is Scott Derrickson, who did the first Doctor Strange. No writers announced as of yet, as I last checked. And the cast, of course, is Doctor Strange, played by Benedict Cumberbatch. Wong, who is hilariously, the actor, his name is Benedict Wong. So not only is he named after the characters he's playing, but the two lead actors on the film are Benedict. It's a weird coincidence. And Scarlet Witch, Elizabeth Olsen, is going to be in the film. Interesting that they didn't say Paul Bettany. So I think, WandaVision ends and Vision's dead.
Yeah, I think it ends terribly.
Yeah, I also think it's pretty easy to predict who the villain of this movie is for two reasons. One is that they have said that this will be the first horror movie of the MCU. And two is that Scott Derrickson said years ago he really wanted to use the Doctor Strange villain Nightmare, who is known for literally creating horrible nightmares.
Oh, this is so cool. I had no idea that this was slated to be a horror movie.
Yeah.
That's incredibly cool, because I remember we had talked about before when we were just hanging out, there was supposed to be an X-Men movie that was kind of supposed to be horror-like. Right? I don't know what it was called. I can't remember. But that movie looked so cool, and I was so excited for it. But then somebody told me that it just got scrapped.
Well, it's not. I don't think they confirmed that it's scrapped, but test audiences gave it a really bad review. Yeah. So, yeah. But yeah, this one's gonna be something, man. I think it'll be great. I'm gonna be terrified watching it, and I have no idea where it's going.
And so on entertainment, so EW.com, Cumberbatch has said that although Strange was largely an authoritative, confident figure in Infinity War and Endgame, Multiverse of Madness will disarm the character and present him with some unexpected challenges. So he'll look a little bit, maybe it'll weaken him, maybe without the Eye of Agamotto, he'll feel maybe that alone will make him feel much weaker.
That was his catch-all of just if anything goes bad, I'll just turn back time again like I did in Hong Kong.
Plus him going against another incredibly powerful cosmic figure could disarm him in an entirely new way. And if you're playing off of the possibility that Scarlet Witch could be his apprentice in this one, like she has been in the comics in the past, maybe approaching magic from the perspective of a teacher will place him in a new light.
Mm-hmm. And he's probably going to have that teacher storyline where it's he's trying to train her, but she's so powerful and some stuff is just too much and he has no idea what he's doing, kind of. So it's going to be interesting. Now, after this, we have a long run of shows. It's 3 shows in a row before we get a movie again. So the next one's going to be Loki, which I think it will introduce the idea of multi-dimension stuff, but it won't tie in at all unless they have a funny, just one little off-clip scene where you just see, Loki carrying the Tesseract as they're going through crazy portals and all that. So Loki's going to be coming out in spring of 2021. Tom Hiddleston is going to be playing Loki, and it's the Loki that escaped in Endgame with the Tesseract from a different reality. So that's all we know about it. The logo is 4 completely different fonts all together, so it looks crazy. One of the ideas when we were talking earlier, me and Pat were kind of theorizing. It would be really cool if we got to see 4 different Lokis, and Tom Hiddleston plays Loki, but one of them's an older one of them's one from Infinity War, but he escaped from Thanos, so he's got that character journey still. One's the crazy younger one, just all over the place, and just the 4 different Lokis kind of together. I think he'd love doing that.
Yeah, I mean that sounds like a pretty high possibility for that to happen.
Yeah. A lot of people are saying back when the show was announced that we would be seeing a Loki time traveling and doing weird shit to Earth and finding out how he caused a bunch of events, real life events. But honestly, I don't think that works well with the concept of him taking the Tesseract, which is the space stone, not the time stone.
Yeah. I would love, my random guess is that somewhere in this, if the show, at the end, somehow Loki ends up ruling the world in some reality.
In some reality.
It's it plays through, that reality after the Avengers, he escapes, and that one just, he beats him. He finds out a way now that he knows how they work and everything.
Yeah. What's interesting is since he is in an alternate dimension from the main Marvel universe, we could see him potentially dealing with Thanos in some way. Yeah. Now, because he has one of the Infinity Stones on him and presumably has failed in Thanos' eyes as a result of being captured at the end of Avengers. So maybe we'll see a little bit of that. Maybe we could see cameos from Chris Hemsworth playing the Thor from before Ragnarok.
Long blonde hair.
Right.
Yeah. biggest thing is, do you think we get to see Loki come back into our reality at the end of this, or no? Is he gone?
No, I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't
Okay,
think so.
like you said, I think he's gonna find a reality that he wants to stay in.
Yeah.
But then, like on the flip side, he might see reality of himself that he doesn't like, and then comes back. So I don't know.
All right. So our next show is What If. It's going to be in the summer of 2021. It's an animated show who's going to be narrated by Uatu the Watcher, voiced by Jeffrey Wright. If you've watched Westworld, he plays Bernard in that show with the glasses hanging.
Has an amazing voice, so perfect for
Yeah,
Uatu
that would
the
definitely
narrator.
fit.
Oh, yeah, it's going to be great. So I have a huge list of the characters here. So we have Michael B. Jordan's Killmonger, Sebastian Stan playing, the Winter Soldier and all that, Josh Brolin playing Thanos, Mark Ruffalo's the Hulk, Tom Hiddleston playing Loki, Sam Jackson playing, I'm forgetting his name, Nick Fury, Chris Hemsworth's Thor, Haley Atwell's Peggy Carter, Chadwick Boseman's Black Panther, Karen Gillan's Nebula, thank you. Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye, Paul Rudd's Ant-Man, Michael Douglas's maybe Ant-Man, maybe they'll have him like get in the suit or something. Neil McDonough, who played Dum Dum Dugan in the first Captain America. Dominic Cooper, who played the young Howard Stark. Sean Gunn, who plays Kraglin, the one guy in Guardians that's like, what's his face?
Yondu's right-hand man.
Yes, thank you. We also got Natalie Portman playing
Jane Foster.
Thank you. There's a lot of names here. David Dasmalchian, who is Kurt, the Russian guy in Ant-Man, the guy who like yells Baba Yaga and all that. So he's in it. Stanley Tucci, who played Dr. Erskine, the guy who gave Cap his powers. Toby Jones, who played Arnim Zola. There's a whole lot. There's a lot.
Yeah, everybody.
Yeah, there's a lot
Yeah,
of people.
just everybody.
And they'll be tackling... so, since it's an animated series, they can get a little weird with it. And they'll be tackling concepts. One concept I think they've announced that they're going to cover is, what if Peggy Carter became Captain America? So what if she received the serum and became Cap instead? And in the comics, the What If comics tend to end tragically, where they're like, well, maybe we get one positive thing that happens out of this change that everyone likes to go to. But as a result, these events spiral off horribly, and now maybe we see her crashing into the ice, and Steve ends up surviving and living an awful, sad life.
Yeah, wow. Okay.
And then suddenly she's Captain America in the future.
Wow.
I think that's a really interesting concept. I've never heard of the What If comics before
They're pretty good
any of
one-shots.
this, so hopefully I can get a chance to read them before this show comes out, because it sounds like a very cool concept.
Yep.
Next show is Hawkeye.
2 years, yeah.
It's going to be in the
I
fall.
forget we're talking about this stuff and like, fucking forget it.
It's going to be the fall of 2021. It's Jeremy Renner and his daughter Leela Barton, who is Ava Russo, who's actually Joe Russo, the director of Endgame, and all its daughter, training to be the new Hawkeye. The logo looks like it's inspired by Matt Fraction's run of the comics for Hawkeye, which were unbelievable. So that's going to be a pretty cool show, I think. And then
I thought they were actually using Kate Bishop, though. I thought it was just a rumor that it was
Oh, really?
playing.
I might have gotten
it
that
was him
wrong.
training his daughter. Yeah, because a lot of people are suspecting that at the end of Endgame, but I believe they directly said they were pulling out a young Kate Bishop, who is the female Hawkeye in the comics and a member of the Young Avengers. And
okay.
that would be my preference. I really like Kate Bishop from the comics. And granted, maybe they'll just make a character who's exactly like Kate Bishop and just use his daughter. But I would think that they'd use Kate Bishop because she's a pretty popular character.
Okay.
And everyone should read Matt Fraction's Hawkeye series. It's absolutely amazing.
The last film that was announced for Phase 4 is Thor: Love and Thunder, coming out on November 5th of 21. Director is Taika Waititi, and I think he's also the writer as well. We got, the usual cast: Chris Hemsworth as Thor, Natalie Portman as Jane Foster, who is going to be turning into the Mighty Thor, the female version, and then Tessa Thompson as Valkyrie, who's going to be the first major LGBTQ character.
And they've specified they are going to directly reference the fact that she is bisexual in the movie, like she is in the comics.
So they described her as she's the king of Asgard looking for her queen.
I don't know if that's entirely serious, though.
Okay. It's Taika Waititi. You never know.
Yeah, exactly. He could absolutely make that part of the story. Considering it's Love and Thunder, it wouldn't be entirely surprising if it is her dealing with that.
I love the other things to talk about. I love the quote from Chris Hemsworth. He said, "I'd play this character for as long as anyone let me."
That's good. He's all in at this point. I We'll say, so they've, of course, talked about the return of Natalie Portman, who is returning as Jane Foster, who is a pretty controversial character from the first two films. People didn't exactly like her as being a very stereotypical love interest for Thor, and I don't think Natalie Portman really liked that aspect of her as a character.
We can talk about the whole thing that they screwed her over with the director she wanted for Thor 2 and all that.
And Natalie Portman, however, is a brilliant actress, so I'm really excited to see her maybe come back and take on a more prominent role as something other than a love interest. She is directly becoming female Thor during the course of this movie, which in the comics, during Jason Aaron's Thor run, she becomes Thor after Thor becomes unworthy to pick up his hammer. Considering there's no Mjolnir around, I'm wondering if we will see the return of Mjolnir, maybe just showing up by the result of magic at some point. Maybe it can never truly be destroyed.
It's after Doctor Strange, so
right,
who knows?
Exactly. Maybe an alternate universe hammer shows up. She picks up the hammer and becomes Thor. However, Jane Foster in the comics is going through chemotherapy as a result of breast cancer, and every time she turns into Thor, she's actually progressing the cancer and making her treatments kind of null and void. So there's that brings real depth to her character, and I really hope that's actually an aspect of the character that comes in the movie as well, because A, Natalie Portman could knock that performance out of the park, guarantee it, and B, that is such a compelling story for a character who is sort of forced to become a hero and treat themselves like a hero, even when it is at a direct, like, it's awful for her health, and it is going to kill her eventually.
Right.
I think that's like a really, like you said, it's a really compelling thing for a hero. I think that's a lot of time what makes an audience really fall in love with a hero or connect to them in a lot of ways. Like, I mean, with Tony Stark, using the glove at Endgame and stuff, I mean, they put themselves in front of everybody else, or they put everybody else in front of themselves. My bad. I'm very selfish.
The last prediction I got for that one is I would love to see Taika Waititi direct a love triangle between Valkyrie and Thor and Jane Foster, and just some weird, hilarious interaction of that.
Oh, absolutely. I guarantee we'll get some jokes about that. I also pray that one day we'll get Beta Ray Bill. One day.
If they bring him in, man.
He was a statue in Thor Ragnarok.
If you don't know who he is, he's like basically Thor, but with a horse head. It's amazing. So the other films that got mentioned at some point over the past couple years, but not directly, given anything, were Blade. Mahershala Ali is going to be playing Eric Brooks, or Blade. He was Cottonmouth in Luke Cage. He was in that movie Moonlight that won a bunch of awards back a couple years ago. And development for that movie began in 2013. So they've been working on this movie for 6 years at least what they're trying to...
And if I remember correctly, he actually directly called up Kevin Feige for a meeting and was like, I want to play Blade.
I love these actors just asking for it. Yeah. They're just like, please let me into the MCU. We also got Black Panther 2. Ryan Coogler is going to return to direct. And recently Martin Freeman said that he's going to come back as Everett Ross. We got Guardians Volume 3, which we could talk about the whole James Gunn fiasco and everything. That got pushed that back way far. Captain Marvel 2. Both Kevin Feige and Brie Larson said they want Kamala Khan, Miss Marvel, to be in the MCU at some point. So we could see that. Kevin Feige hinted that this might happen after Captain Marvel 1, but before Endgame and everything. I really hope not. I'd love to see her in the real time, not like a flashback kind of thing again.
Right.
I really like, so we have a Google Doc for all the topics that we're talking about, and under that, in parentheses, I like how it just says, please no.
It'd be interesting, but I just give me the future or now. Fantastic Four were confirmed along with X-Men or the Mutants. Kevin Feige specifically said the approach to the Mutants is going to be different than how Fox did it. I have no idea what that means, but maybe
a different team, or maybe a lot more focus on the fact that they are a team and less focus on Wolverine. Maybe just a team without Wolverine. I love Wolverine, but that would also not surprise me just because they might want to distance themselves from Hugh Jackman's Wolverine, who is such a popular and compelling and well-known character. He's very much the face of the role at this point, so they might want to give that some time.
And I think a lot of people, I mean, myself included, were frustrated with how they handled Wolverine for so much of the career in a lot of ways. And I think they just tied it up so nicely with Logan. So I don't see any point.
Yeah, wait a little bit. And when they do bring him in, eventually maybe focus on Wolverine as the short, ugly guy that he is, and not Hugh Jackman, the handsome Broadway performer, who, of course, did amazing, but,
The last film we haven't talked about is Spider-Man 3. Kevin Feige said it's going to be a story that's never been done on film before, and both John Watts, the director, and Tom Holland have hinted that it might be Kraven the Hunter.
I
Awesome.
pray for Kraven the Hunter. Right? There was a lot of rumors that Sony might be doing their own Kraven movie, so I really hope not, so that he can be a part of the MCU and not part of their villain verse that they're doing with Venom. Of course, there's also rumors that Venom might just become a part of the MCU eventually anyway, so we'll see. Whatever, honestly, I'll deal with it if it means Spider-Man sticking around in the MCU for an extended period of time.
Tom Holland's casting of Spider-Man is as good as Robert Downey Jr.'s as Iron Man. Like...
I like him. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but I do think he's great in the role.
I don't know. I really am excited to see where they go, and Sony always concerns me because you know what they've done. We recorded this before the D23 presentation. Does anybody have any random hot takes about what the MCU is having a panel there? Is it just going to be a celebration?
I think that they'll make some announcements. I think we'll get some villain announcements for some of the movies that have been announced. I could see them announcing Namor as villain for Black Panther 2.
Yeah. Earthquakes, man.
Yeah, they did mention that there were some tsunamis and earthquakes showing up, so I could see them directly using Namor. I think they might... I think we're a long way off from casting announcements for some like Fantastic Four or things like that.
No one knows what they're doing that far in the future, but
I definitely think we're in for some surprises.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna get Phase 5, but I think we're gonna get touches of just little bits of stuff.
Well, so I think it's gonna be on the flip side. I think they're gonna have some movies that are gonna jump into Phase 4 that have been confirmed already. So like I can see them announcing a date for, say, for instance, I don't know, Blade, for instance. Like Blade is coming out in 2021 as a part of Phase 4, right. Or even like Spider-Man is going to be a part of Phase 4.
Oh yeah,
just because they already have
every 2 years those films come out. So.
I will say that Phase 4 is the shortest phase movie-wise, and it's also only 2 years long. So timeline-wise, it's actually the shortest phase as well. But I don't think we'll quite get a full breakdown of Phase 5 yet.
All right. So any last mentions of anything? Okay. So, let us know what you thought of this episode. Let us know what you think they're going to do with Phase 4 and Phase 5 and all that. Let us know if you want me to do a whole podcast of reading off casting in the What If show. That list is long, and I'd love to just read the whole thing for you. But before then, Tom, we got our next episode coming out. Tom, what's the next topic going to be?
Do eating vitamin gummies actually constitute as being healthy, or have I just been lying to myself to avoid going to the gym? Find out next week, and we hope to have you folks there.
Cool. All right.
And now we're going to hit pause.